Garten of Banban 3. Where do I even start with this game? This has to be one of the worst experiences I have ever had in my gaming experience. My expectations for this game were terribly low before even loading it up or even purchasing the game in the first place. But I am here to tell you that it's even managed to be such a disappointment and generally has to be one of the most uninteresting, uninspiring, unoriginal and soulless game I have ever played in my entire time of gaming. This game is so bad that I literally couldn't even finish the game. I literally couldn't bring myself to do it, and I honestly just wanted my money back the entire time. Now, in my eyes, of course, this is going to be different for other people, but in my opinion, it's clear as day that the U-Phoria brothers have no actual love for, even any interest when developing this game series, and are instead rushing out anything they can in just a few months to, well, probably just make as much money as they possibly can. This horrendous Banban wave, to me, just makes that really clear, but of course that is my opinion, and that's going to differ for absolutely everyone. So, in this video, we're going to be going over my experiences and my opinion on Garten of Banban 3. I do want to make it really clear that this is my opinion. This is going to be different for other people. I have no doubt that you will disagree with some of the stuff, or maybe even all of the stuff that I say within this video, and that's absolutely fine. You're allowed to have your own opinion, of course, and I would love to hear your opinions down in the comments. I'll be sure to respond to absolutely every single comment that there is. So yeah, I'd love to hear your own opinions on this, but personally for me, yeah, this is not very positive when I'm going to be talking about Garten of Banban 3. But anyways, let's get into my experience with Garten of Banban 3 recently after its release. So, I don't think they actually care about making a good quality game that people will actually enjoy. I don't think that the U-Phoria brothers care about putting heart and soul into a game that they make. In my opinion, they don't even care if the game is actually awful and nothing short of, well, garbage. They seem to only care about getting those sweet paychecks at the end of the day. But I'm telling you now, they did not get my money. I have to say, I do think that it is really so obvious that they really just don't care about games and are just money hungry, like I've mentioned. Now, proof of this is how they have already revealed Garten of Banban 4, and are asking you to wishlist it over on Steam. They really have no shame and very clearly just want your money for an utterly garbage game. So, now let's get on to the main and most significant question of this video. What makes me hate Garten of Banban 3 so much to the point where I couldn't even finish the game and, well, no longer want to support the series as a whole in any way? And I'm going to be answering that now. Now, I'll very briefly mention my opinions on the game visually. Personally, I think the visuals are pretty boring and uninspiring and give no horror tension at all. After all, the game is really meant to be a horror game, and well, I just don't feel scared at all. It just doesn't feel scary, it doesn't feel intense, and it just doesn't feel like a horror game. Along with that, the character models don't help either. They are still horrifically awful and very unscary, just like the overall environment of the game. It just doesn't feel very tense. I just feel like when I'm playing the game, it's the casual game. It's meant to be some sort of fun arcade game. It does not feel like a horror game at all, with literally no horror tension, which is quite disappointing from obviously what is meant to be a horror game. So that's instantly going to be a negative and really, not want me to play the game. If I'm looking for a horror game, I'm not really going to think, oh, Garten of Banban 3 or any of the Garten of Banban games are the ones I'm after. So now let's talk about the gameplay. Now, the gameplay of Garten of Banban 3 is hardly any different to previous games. The only difference is that the game is slightly longer and gives you more areas to explore. The drone mechanic is still very boring, and they have done absolutely nothing to try and build upon it whatsoever from the previous games. You still only hit buttons with it. Some segments with the drone feel like they were made purely just to stall time, to of course try and get you past that 2-hour mark on Steam so the game can't be refunded. And this game does it so often that it genuinely feels really infuriating when you have to go through these parts knowing that all they are trying to do is waste your time. Now, of course, this is a classic bit of story padding, and we do see this with a lot of games, but not really to the extent, in my opinion, of Garten of Banban 3. Having it so early on in the game, taking so long, it's just not very creative, and at least with some other games with story padding, they actually make it interesting. There's certain tasks you have to complete, not just the same thing, but just making it purposely very long and very boring. Now, yeah, I just find that that whole part of the game is just a complete waste of time. Another classic way that Garten of Banban 3 wastes your time is by the fetch quests for almost the entire runtime of the whole entire game. I honestly find this so mind-numbing and garbage because it's one of the most pathetic excuse for gameplay I have ever seen. It's not even like they do it well or make it fun in any way. For this, you quite literally just have items scattered around rooms that you need to collect to to obtain, who would have guessed, a key card. It's something we've seen before, it's very repetitive and just not fun at all. There's just no fun involved in any of that really, like the entire experience of Garten of Banban 3. I honestly just find that really uninspiring once again, and just quite pathetic in many aspects. They really should be showing more ideas and more experience with their game design and how to make the player do other things that are actually more fun and more engaging, keeping them coming back for more. Now, after all of that, we are going to focus on the one and pretty much only positive for Garten of Banban 3, and that is regarding the Nabelina surgery section. Now, this is because you had to focus on multiple things at a time to successfully complete the procedure. Basically, you have to keep track of 3 things in the room: buttons, multicolored rods, and this chemical machine. When a colored chemical appears on the machine screen, you need to equip the syringe and then follow the chemical key poster to create the right color. You then take this chemical and inject it into the Nabelina. Along with this, there are colored rods that you need to keep green by interacting with them, but throughout the procedure, they will actually change color, so you need to make sure that they are always green. And then finally, there are a few buttons in the room. If one of those does light up, then you will need to hit it with your drone. And I do think that that is a pretty cool part of the game. It works well, and that's how the entire game should be. Obviously not just exactly like that, but that varied up and just making each part of the game more thrilling, more exciting, and just more inspiring, something that actually seems professional and like a proper game that I'd actually want to play, and that's my opinion on that anyway. But that part of the game I really do think is quite strong. So yeah, I do find that part of the game pretty engaging and enjoyable, keeping on top of all 3 tasks at once. So credit where credit is due, this section was good. But yeah, unfortunately, that is where my praise for Garten of Banban 3 ends. Now, in this game, you are introduced to Stinger Flynn, and well, they are not scary at all, and honestly, it's the same with the entire game as well, like we mentioned earlier. I was actually confused when playing this because there isn't even a single moment that could even be considered scary at all. The worst it gets is the Nabelina poking her head around the corner before disappearing with no sound effect or ambience at all, so it just looks plain stupid, to be honest. Ambience is also something that the U-Phoria brothers clearly have not learnt their lesson on. It's still the exact same as it was in the first and second game with no improvements. The only real ambience is where there's a cutscene or weird monologue. It's so disappointing, and I thought that by now they would have listened to feedback, but once again they actually don't care at all about what people say about trying to genuinely improve the game, because that takes effort, and well, it seems like they don't want to put in effort, they just want to earn that money for putting out what I think are terrible games. Now, I also want to mention the voice acting, because in my opinion, it's just awful. It's absolutely awful. Now, I'm not sure if it's down to the voice actors or the way that the voices are implemented into the game, but it just doesn't work. It doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel real, and once again, doesn't feel scary. They just need to learn how to do it properly and implement it properly into the game. Definitely improvements need to be made with the voice acting. Now, something else that had me absolutely bewildered was the weird story that this game has. Like, it is a genuine moment in the game where you are in a car with Stinger Flynn, a Peeler Bird, and Banban in the middle of a desert, and that devil thing says something about how you have no pancreas. Like, okay? This left me so confused. I just found that really strange, and it's just really, really odd. Doesn't make any sense, and yeah, I just find the story to be very, very uninspiring once again, like the rest of this game, and just doesn't really add any real meaning to the game at all. And there is so much more I could go on about in terms of the negatives for this game, but I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to bore you guys too much. I don't want to go on a massive rant video, but to be honest, it's already been a pretty big one. But what I do want to say is that there is some potential here. I think that it's a possibility that something could be made good out of this. Obviously not with Garten of Banban 3. There's no fixing that game. Maybe in a new Garten of Banban game, but to be honest, making a whole new series as a whole is probably a good idea. Obviously, there's a bit of talent there with the U-Phoria brothers, but there needs to be some more effort as well. If you're able to create a game like that, then with more effort and more time and dedication, you could create something much better that's actually scary, actually enjoyable, and will gain even more traction than the series already has. Already this series is massive and very popular actually, with millions of people watching the trailers and actually playing the game. But I do think that by improving pretty much every aspect of the game, this could be a massive series, or maybe a new series is the way to go. It's really up to the U-Phoria brothers, but obviously it doesn't look like anything's going to change with a Garten of Banban 4 looking like, well, it's just around the corner. So pretty disappointing stuff there, to be honest. But either way, those are my opinions and my experience so far, or well, my entire experience since I have refunded the game with Garten of Banban 3. And yeah, that does just about wrap up things here. But like I said, of course, you're going to have your own opinion. Maybe you think the game's good, and I respect that. If you do think the game's good, then well, that's a good thing. At least you get to enjoy the game. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this game down in the comments below. And if you have played it, what you're thinking of the game so far. And if you have refunded it, let me know that you did that as well. I'm just interested to see how everyone else is getting along with Garten of Banban 3. But yeah, that does just about wrap up things here. Now, on screen now, you're seeing a link to a video where I go over absolutely everything we know so far about FNAF Plus. Hit the link on the screen if you are interested in watching that.